Ben, thank you for joining us
Hello.
again, and for a final catch-up, tell us about how this went. The panels happened, the votes have been lodged, we've busted some myths and realities.
Yep.
What were some of your take-home points?
Well, I think what was interesting is when we sort of designed this exercise, we came up with 6 statements about myths and realities that were intentionally designed to be quite provocative and possibly make people feel a bit uncomfortable. But what immediately became apparent when we looked at the votes is that 5 of those 6 statements were perceived by all of our voters to be realities. So they were embraced, really, is kind of the point. So even if you were talking about funding issues, or you were talking about the focus of professional services firms on profit before purpose, or if you were talking about the speed of the tertiary sector, which to some degree are taboo topics and we haven't been willing to talk about, people were willing to say, no, we think that's fair, that's a reality, and let's put it on the table to see if we can overcome it. So I think what sort of struck me was the honesty, really, in the voting. That people were like, these are challenges and you've nailed them, so let's talk about them.
And that was constructive? You were able to move through that process?
Well, I think so, because if you take, for example, where we talk about, I can't remember what the figures were, but I think it was something like 72% of our voters said that they felt the tertiary sector was too slow to move, and 78% of our voters said that the professional services sector was too profit-oriented. I was able to put them on the table and say, well, how do we overcome it? And Adam had some great insights around his experience both in government and then in professional services, and how there is a shift happening in larger firms towards purpose, and that's something that's exciting that we can unlock. And in the tertiary sector, we heard Karen and Lisa speak about how we can engage with the tertiary sector better for more agile evaluation and access to research. So I think it allowed us to talk about different ways of engaging with each other that we otherwise wouldn't have if we weren't able to say these are realities that we need to face up to.
Where to from here, do you think?
I think it's the start of a conversation today. I mean, it's funny, we did the when we collected the votes and we looked at, for example, the difference in the votes between regional Queensland and that's the first time I've done that today. It's the first time I've mentioned another statement to it now. Between regional Queensland and Brisbane, there were a couple of little interesting themes and trends coming up in the data. So I think we need to look at that a bit deeper. For example, there were different perceptions around professional services in the tertiary sector in regional Queensland than here in Brisbane. Why is that? I'd like to dig in a bit deeper behind that. So I think, we've tip of the iceberg in terms of further analysis that we can do, and I'd like to dig in a bit deeper. And probably the only other thing that's worth mentioning that really struck me today is there was a really strong just do it message that came through, and that's pretty exciting for me, because I feel like sometimes we do always look to the side and look behind us and expect someone else to go. So there was a bit of a go first, put your shoulders back and lean into these partnerships, and across all of the myths and realities that we spoke about, I think that was a really pervasive message that I'm excited about, because it was a bit of a call to arms and a call to action that you can do it, you guys are the leaders of the future, so step into that authority.
Thank you so much, Ben, for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you.